Hello guys, welcome back. In this particular video, we are going to complete the clock design that we have started in the previous video. So if you have not watched that video, then what we have done in the previous video is we have just designed a Figma design of a clock face. Now in this particular video, we are going to make that in HTML and CSS. Okay, so let's begin. So let's open our Visual Studio Code and start our basic uh, page, that is index.html. This is going to be the page in which all our HTML code is going to lie. Then let's create a folder called CSS and main.css. Okay, so this is going to be where all our CSS is going to be there. And let's title, so black clock. Okay, so this is going to be my heading, and next let's include the CSS. Okay, so link CSS main.css. Another thing to do is, we are going to use a specific font for our numbers. Okay, so that is Amita. Okay, so let's get that font from Google Fonts. So fonts.google.com, and let's search for Amita. Yeah, so this is how it looks. It looks like something like this. Let's select this font and get the embed link and paste it inside our HTML. Okay, so that is done. Now let's go back to our HTML and start the basic styling before we forget. Okay, so let's select the body and set the font family to the new font that we have decided. Okay, so this is going to be it. And now let's go back to index.html and start designing our clock. Okay, now first of all, we have to set the number of elements or number of things that we require, right? So first of all, we have this particular outer circle. Okay, so this outer circle, let's call it the clock container. Okay, let it be the clock container, and inside the clock container we are going to have another circle, which is going to be clock pg. Let's say clock front. Okay, so let's say clock front. Okay, so this div is going to be this light gray circle, that is a bigger circle that is going around. Okay, so that we have masked it with the help of the mask of the particular outer circle. Okay, so let's see how we can implement that, but let's move ahead and let's see. Next is this white circle. So for that will be our actual clock. Okay, so face, and inside that clock face we have, let's see, what else do we have? Okay, so other than that there is nothing. So now we can start putting up these numbers. So let's call it numbers. Okay, so let's call it num, and let's call this num 12. Okay, so this is going to be for num 12. So inside that I'm going to have one div for the tick and one div for the text. Okay, so let's okay, so this is going to be the tick text, which is right now going to be 12. Okay, so we have done this. Now let's add one more. Okay, so let's add one more that is going to be for number 1, which is going to be having this particular thing. Okay, so 1. Okay, there may be better ways of doing this, but I am trying to do it in this format. Okay, so next. Okay, so next what I should do is, now let's style these two. If this is styled, then other things will be very easy. Okay, so let's try it out. So let's come over here, and first let's view the output first. Okay, so let's open it in the live server. Okay, so right now there is nothing. Okay, so this is how it looks. Okay, so let's start building it up. So I want this clock to be centered, right? So I'm going to use display flex and justify content center and align items center. And then I want the body, the height of the body to be 100 viewport height. Okay, so now everything should come to the center. Okay, so let's target. Let's first now we have set the body properly now, so everything now is coming in the center. Next, let's target the outer circle. Okay, so outer circle was that dark black circle, right? So we already have the style in Figma, so just copy that, and let's come to our CSS and target that particular div, that is the clock container, and paste these things over here. Okay, so these are the dimensions, these are the top left, so this we do not need. So we need only the width, height, and the background. Okay, so now if I save, you can see it generates that black square, but we want it in the form of circle. So we just have to add border radius, and because it's a square, I can just say 50%, and that will create a circle. Okay, now once that is done, we want to create the other thing, that is the clock front. Okay, so I will target that now. So the clock front is, let's go to Figma and find out what is the size of the clock front and color. So this is the size and color of this. Okay, let's paste it over here. So let's remove this left and top from here, save it, and let's see what do we get. Okay, so we get something like this. Next, we need it to be a circle, so let's do that. Okay, and now we want it positioned in a different location, right? So now we want it to be in a slightly different orientation. So we can first do position relative, so that we can position it according to our needs. Then let's first do top of minus 700 pixels and see. Okay, so and let's say left of minus 700 pixels. So I think let's go for 650 and 650 pixels. Okay, and I think this is fine. Okay, so I would also like to make this position relative. Okay, so now this is done. Now the thing is, it is extending outside the dark black circle. Okay, so all I have to do is come to that dark black circle and say overflow hidden. Okay, so as soon as I do that, you can see now whatever is extra will be removed. Okay, now once that is done, let's go to the next part, that is clock face, and handle that. So clock face is going to be, okay, so let's copy the style of clock face now. So that is this ellipse, let me call it face over here, and let's copy all the styles from here. Okay, and paste it. I don't need the position absolute for the time being, and left and top left and everything I don't need. Save it and see. Okay, so it is coming somewhere around here, but first of all I have to position it relative. Okay, so position relative. Next, I want to change the Z index so that it comes on top. So Z index of 2, that will bring it to the top. Next, I want it to be a circle. So let's do this. Let's bring the border radius, and now it's a circle. And now, okay, let me think. Now let's bring it to the center. Okay, so to bring it to the center, we can do margin. Okay, so margin. So let's find out how much, how to bring this to the center. Right now, horizontally, we can just do margin auto, and that should do it. Let me see. Yeah, so I can bring horizontally, and now to bring it vertically centered, I have to do a little bit of calculation. So the width of the outer circle, height of the outer circle is 956 pixels, whereas the height of the inner circle, that is this white circle, is around 824 pixels. Okay, so let's subtract them and find out. So 956 minus 824 comes to be 132. Okay, so that is total difference is 132. So let's divide it by 2 and find. So 66 pixels is what it should come down. Okay, so let's come over here and say 66 pixels, and that should bring it perfectly to the center. Okay, yeah. And now after looking at the the clock front, the light gray color circle, now it has changed a little bit. So I think I will have to change this a little. Yeah, so I think I will have to tweak it a little more. Okay, I'm just eyeballing it. I am not exactly sure what top and left to put, but this is fine for me. Okay, okay. Now let's target the numbers now. Okay, so let's target this. So the ticks and the numbers. Okay, so we have a class called num. So let's target that. So dot num, and the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to position it absolute. Okay, and then the height and width I will keep it same as the clock face. Okay, so and then I will set the top equal to 0 pixels. Okay, and left equal to 0 pixels. Okay, now the reason I'm doing this is I want this num to be exactly on top of clock face, but it should be transparent. Okay, so let's save it and look at the demo. Obviously you will not see any difference over here because it is transparent. So let's add a background color to show you what's going on. So now you can see, I can see that num over here. Okay, so now the next thing that I want to do is I want to target the text. Okay, so let's target the tick text. Okay, so let's go inside num tick text, and here I'm going to first set the size of the font. So let's select any one of the numbers and go down and set the size. Okay, so let's come over here, set the size and color and everything. Okay, save it, and there we go. So we have the number exactly at this particular location. Okay, we may have to tweak it a little later, but right now that is what we have. Next, we want to handle this tick, which is basically this particular thick line that we have. Okay, so let's target that. Now after looking at it, I think I should name this as tick thick. Okay, so that we can differentiate between the thin tick and the thicker tick. So now we can come over here, dot num dot thick tick, and here now I can go to Figma and find out what was the exact size that I have set for the numbers. Okay, so let's select this, copy everything from here, let's paste that over here, and so let's have a look at it. So the width is 10 pixels, the height is 31 pixels, and left and top, we don't need the left and top. And let's save it, and let's see what do we get. Now obviously it is not visible because it is somewhere around here. Okay, so we have to bring it in the center, then only it will be visible, right? So let's bring it to the center. So to bring it to the center, I can do margin, let's say 5 pixels from the top and bottom, and auto. Okay, so that should bring it to the center, provided Oh, understood. I changed the name of this, but I did not save it. Okay, so let's save it, And now let's see why it is not coming. Let's inspect it and check the tick. So okay, so it is not yet refreshed. So let's refresh it and inspect again. Num12 tick. So it is where it should be. Okay, so now let me just remove this background and see. Okay, so now it's coming. Perfect. Okay, now the next thing that I should do is I think there should be a little bit more spacing all around, right? So top and bottom, I can say 15 pixels. Sorry, 25 pixels. Yeah, so 25 pixels from the top, I'm bringing it down. And for the time being, just let me just remove this div, or I can just comment this out. Okay, so that that one is not visible. Next, I can come to the text and I can now change I can remove the line height so that that extra space. Okay, so still that space is there. Let me see why that space is there. Okay, 136. So let me set the line height to 70 pixels. And yeah, so now it comes back down. So this is somewhat okay. So I think the margin, this particular additional space is not required, right? So what we can do is we can have a separate margin for the top and the bottom. Okay, so for the top it is 25 pixels left. Sorry, this is top, this is right. Then I will have around 5 pixels for the bottom and auto. Yeah, so this is better. Okay, so now I've designed my first element. Now the next part is how to design the remaining elements. Okay, so the remaining elements is very simple. So you just have to do a transform on the num and do a rotate of, let's say, 30 degrees. That will move your this thing over this to this direction, right? And what you can do is you can use the same technique and target the text and rotate it in the opposite direction, right? Oh, sorry, I removed it from here also. So now you can see whenever you want to rotate, so you will have to rotate the num div, and the text div should be counter rotated. Okay, so let's say, for example, I want to bring this particular text over here. Okay, so let's say 180. So I want to rotate it 180 degrees. So it comes somewhere around here, right? So exactly in the center on the opposite side. So all I have to do is I have to rotate it minus 180 degrees. The text has to be rotated minus 180 degrees to make it perfectly aligned. Okay, so this particular concept we are going to use now. To add the other elements, that is all the other numbers 1 2 3 and all these things. Now what we can do is we can actually add so all these elements in the HTML, then style it using CSS and manually do it, but that will be not too much time consuming. Rather, what I would prefer is just do this in the JavaScript. Okay, so we are just going to style one particular element over here, and then all the remaining elements will be created on the fly. So all the other elements will be making it using JavaScript. Okay, so since we have designed this, now we have a few more things to be designed. We have to design this thin tick. Okay, so let's do that now. So next we will now uncomment this out, and we don't now need this because we are going to use JavaScript for styling, right? So we can remove this. And in the thin tick, we don't have, what do you say, text. We just have a tick, right? So we will call this as thin tick. Okay, so let's copy that, come over here and duplicate this, and this will be thin tick. Now obviously we can just copy the style from here. So let's go up, let's go to ticks, and we can open any of the ticks and copy the width and height and come over here and paste the width and height, and that's it. Our remaining things will be the same. So let's open it and check it out. Okay, so now let's refresh it. Okay, so now because that num is being rotated, so I think we can comment this out first so that we can see the other one, right? So let's comment this out, and you can see I have this nice little, we can also comment this for the time being and this for the time being. Okay, so you can see I have this thin tick. Now the same way we can rotate this also all around, right? But again, we are going to do that with the help of JavaScript, so nothing right now. So we have created both these things. Now the only thing we have to do is create these objects. Okay, so create these things. So create these elements on the fly using JavaScript, and then rotate it to position it properly all around the screen. Okay, so that we can do. Now next we will be targeting is going to be my dials. Okay, so for the dials, let's go back to our Figma design and see how many dials are there. Okay, so we have around if you look closely, let's zoom in. Okay, there is this dial, that is the minutes dial, then this is the hours dial, and the seconds dial is a little bit complicated, because there is this particular dial and then there is this red circle, and on top of all of this then there is a black circle. Okay, so we want to make all these things. So total we are going to make 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 divs. Okay, so let's make those divs, and all these divs is going to be position absolute. Okay, because they are on top of each other, right? So whenever something is on top of each other, we will use either absolute or fixed. Okay, so let's go for absolute, and let's top. Okay, so top notch is going to be the black circle. Okay, then I have the, let's call it, let's make 3 divs. One is going to be the minutes, then I will duplicate it for the, let's call it hours, minutes, and this will be seconds. And inside the seconds, because the seconds is going to be slightly different, so I will take the seconds, and inside that I will have the long part and the round part. Okay, so I'm going to have 2 things inside the seconds. Okay, because the structure of the seconds is slightly different. Okay, so now let's start making the top all these things. Okay, now let's style the dials. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is style the top notch. Now let's come to Figma, select the top notch, copy all the styles and paste it. So I have the width, I have the height, and now I'm going to use the left and right to position it properly, right? But I will show you how I'm going to position it. Let me just remove this right now. And right now it's not visible because it will be somewhere around here. Okay, so let's now position it perfectly. So let's do top equal to 50%. Okay, so that will bring it over here. You can see now it is coming over here, and left is 50%. Okay, so that brings it over here. Okay, but it is not centered right now, because you can see right now it is somewhere, this is the center point. Okay, so let me just zoom in. So this is the center point, but we have to bring this particular point as a center. So for that we are going to use a simple trick of translate, transform, translate. Okay, and because we have done an extra shift, so we will be undoing that with the help of minus 50% X and minus 50% Y. Once I do that, now you can see, once I save it, Now it will be in the perfect center. Okay, now once this is done, now we can make it circle with the help of border radius. Okay, so let's set the border radius to 50%, and that will make the circle. So next we have done that. Next we will handle the hours. Okay, so let's do that. Now for the hours, I can just take that div and let's come over here, select the hours, take everything from here and paste it over here. Okay, so once that is done, for the time being, I'm not going to transform or do anything like that. And I don't want top left or anything. Okay, now I will save it. And you can see a little bit part of that is visible right now, but I want to bring it perfectly centered, right? So I will use the same technique that I used for the top notch, save it, and it comes perfectly centered. Okay, but now I don't want it to be at this particular place. Okay, so I want it slightly offset. Okay, so let's all I have to do is, instead of doing left 50%, I can do left, let's say 30%. Sorry, let's do 40%. Okay, I think 45 is okay. So 44 is good enough. Okay, so this is going to be my hours hours dial. Okay, next I'm going to handle the minutes dial. So let's bring in the minutes dial. Minutes dial. Now let's copy the style from here. So for the minutes style, I just have to copy the width and the height, because that is the thing that is changing. Okay, so I will change the width and the height, and let's check. So that is what we have. Now I don't want to see this right now, so that we can style the other things properly. So let's do display none. Okay, so now I can't see the hours. So now next I want to adjust this. Instead of 44%, let's try 34%. Okay, I think that is, no, I should use 38%. Yeah, this is much better. Okay, so this is my minutes handle. Okay, so now I can work on the seconds one. Okay, so let's work on the seconds. So for the seconds one, I'm going to, let's come over here and okay, let's select the, open the second and find out the ellipse. So the width and height of the ellipse is around 29 pixels. Okay, so I can say that my let's copy the styles from here of the minutes and paste it over here. Okay, so let me target the long part first. Okay, so let's do that, long part. So dot long part. So I want the long part now, because let me copy everything from here and paste it over here. Okay, so the position of the seconds is going to be absolute, top 50%, left 38%. Okay, that is fine. Translate is fine. Now the width and height I have to set. Let's see. So the height is going to be 29 pixels. Okay, because that is the radius length of the, sorry, size of the circle. Okay, so if you look at this, the size of the circle is 29 pixels. Okay, so that will be the height, and the length will be the length of this particular so that is around 339.71 pixels. Okay, so let's make it 339 pixels. Okay, so that is going to be our width of this. Next, I will not have any background color or border radius in this, because this is going to be, the seconds will be going to be, you know, transparent. Okay, the color is going to come from the long part and the circle, okay, round part. So let's come over here and give the color. So let's bring in the color and let's set the color to this. Okay, so the long part, now let's think about the long part a little. So the long part is going to be positioned absolute, and okay, let's see, let's work on it a little. So let's save it. Let's save it and see. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, so we don't want the height of this. So height of this is only 5 pixels. So let's call it 5 pixels. Okay, so we have this small, okay, so we have the small thing that is going to be our uh, seconds dial. Okay, so now I think this is fine. Let's check out. Okay, so I think everything is proper. I maybe a little bit of more this is required, so let's do 40. So let it goes inside 42. Oh, sorry, I'm doing it in the wrong place. So this should be 5 pixels and this should be 40%. That should bring it inside, let's say 42%. Yeah, this much is fine. Next I want to do is now target the second thing, that is the round part. So the round part is going to be again position absolute, then top 50% left. Let's say, let's see where it goes, then we will see it. Okay, so the width and height is going to be 29 pixels and 29 pixels. Background is perfect and the border radius is going to be 50%. Okay, so this comes around somewhere around here. Okay, so okay, now I can arrange with the help of this 50% and 60%, 70%. Okay, so by with the help of 70%, I'm reaching exactly in the center, I think. Okay, so let's bring the notch on top so that we can see whether it is exactly in the center or not. So I can set Z index to 5 and bring it on top, and we can see it is not in the center. Okay, so let's bring it in the center. So round part, let's do 69% and let's do 68%, 68.5. So that brings it perfectly to the center. Now let's try to rotate. Now for rotating it, we are not going to touch the long part or the round part. We are going to rotate with the help of the seconds. Okay, so let's try it out, and if it works perfectly, then we can go ahead. Okay, so let's do rotate and let's say 90-degree. And if I rotate, you can see it completely messes up everything. Okay, but one thing to note is our notch is staying at the place where we have kept it. Okay, so that is a good thing. Now the reason why it is not rotating is because whenever we try to rotate, it rotates from the center. Okay, so wherever the center was, it rotates from there. So what we have to do is we have to first transform the origin. Okay, so if we have to transform the origin, the first thing should be first thing is will be the x-axis and the y-axis. Okay, so the y-axis is going to be very simple. It's going to be center. Okay, and the x-axis is what we have to figure out. Okay, so let's start with around 30%. Okay, minus 30%. Oh, sorry, 30%, 60%, and let's do 70%. So 70 brings out to exactly, it goes beyond that. So let's try 68.5%. Let's try 68. Okay, so I think this is okay. So let's try to rotate it by some other angles, 180. So I think it is rotating perfectly. Okay, so let's do it for 270 degrees. Okay, so 270 degrees also works. Okay, so now what I want is I want all my dials to be pointing at 12 o'clock. Okay, so let's bring it 90 degrees back, and now it points to 12 o'clock. Okay. Okay, so that's it for the seconds. Now let's handle the other things. So let's rotate by 90 degrees. Again, you can see the same thing happens with this. So I will have to transform the origin to somewhere around 69%, and center. Okay. So if I do that, I will have to tweak it a little more now. So let's make it 71%, 73%. Okay, so 77%, 77.5. Yeah. Okay, so 77.4 is what I'm going to select. Okay, there must be a better way of doing this. I will do some research to find out how we can, perfectly center. Next, we will do the same thing for the R's. Okay, so let's take that and remove the display none, and let's see, do we need a little bit of tweaking? Yes, we need it. So now to perfectly align it, I would like to disable the minutes handle so that I can see it perfectly. Okay, so now I want to, it has overshooten, right? So I can do 76, 75, exactly 75 will, no, 74. Okay, so 74.3 does the job. Now let me try to rotate it and see if everything works. Yes, it works. And let me try to rotate this also. Yes, that also works. Okay, so now let me bring this back to 90 degrees, and now all the dials are at 12 o'clock. Okay, so that is it. Our design is complete, and now in the next video we will make this clock working. Okay, now obviously this clock is not complete because the numbers have to be generated now with the help of JavaScript, and the dial has to be now working. Okay, so these things we will do it with the help of JavaScript. Okay, then see you in the next video.